because I want to bring up Dan Weiss. Dan Weiss, who's the director of Fanwood Public Library in Fanwood, New Jersey, who's also a talented musician. But he's here today because he's really been a pioneer in fostering inclusive librarianship. In 2008, Dan, along with Meg Kalaya, the director of another public library in New Jersey, the Scotch Plains Public Library, took a tiny amount of federal LSTA money to do an amazing thing. They started at a time when I don't think libraries were doing very much of this, created this award-winning program dedicated to helping librarians better serve individuals on the autism spectrum. And they created a program called Libraries and Autism, We're Connected. And they have done some amazing videos, they have resources, and they are a resource. People from all over the country, when they need some mentoring about how to work with people on the spectrum, call Dan. And in fact, that's how we got the young woman from the Autism Society of British Columbia here. They called Dan all the way from Canada. So it's a wonderful thing, a wonderful network. And I know that the work that we're trying to do here with targeting autism wouldn't be happening were it not for Libraries and Autism We're Connected. So I want to introduce Dan. And Dan, do you want to say anything before I put your video on? You want to introduce it?
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to say that I am happy to be back here in Illinois. It was great to be here the first year, just about 1 year ago, and very inspiring to see how things have continued to develop and evolve here. And I think Barbara said before that what Suzanne and others are creating here is an amazing something that can serve as an amazing national model. So I hope it continues to spread out to other states. Even states that have a budget to spend would be great. They think of what they could do. So Suzanne called me. I guess she finally found my Facebook page and saw that besides being a librarian and besides my interest in autism, I'm also a musician. And she said, "Oh, do you know any good autism-related songs that would be good to have here at the conference?" So I'll say that she already said a little bit about Libraries and Autism, the program that we started in 2008. And it started with my friend Meg Kalaya. We got, as she said, a very small amount of money, $10,000, to do something about libraries and autism. And the something that we opted to do, actually the program was called Welcoming Spaces, making your library a more welcoming space. So others were doing, it had to be something that could be replicable by other libraries. It had to be something that partnered with other community groups. So many other of the grant recipients were doing things like collection development or like sibling programming, this kind of thing. My colleague and I looked around and we tended to come at things from a customer service point of view. So, and it still strikes me, I will say that Marty was one of the most inspiring speakers I've seen in an awfully long time, and she pretty much hit every note. I was somewhat gratified that we came up with a lot of the things that she affirmed in her speech. She was fantastic. So we developed this program, and again, that we knew nothing about autism really when we started. And we partnered with experts in our area, notably a couple of women from Children's Specialized Hospital in Mountainside, New Jersey, which is a great autism and other service provider for other kinds of disabilities for kids. So we learned a lot, and we developed some strategies for librarians to work more effectively with people on the spectrum. And it evolved to, from customer service to thoughts about programming and thoughts about autism awareness for librarians. And it's continued to kind of evolve as we went along. But the woman who was featured in our video, which is still easy to find on our website, became the autism educator at Children's Specialized Hospital. She then proceeded to partner with Kohl's department store, who supported Children's Specialized with a lot of grant money to develop other things about autism. So she did video for businesses, like how to make your business a more, more welcoming and autism friendly. She did one for kids, like peer-to-peer acceptance kind of thing. Children's Specialized has another series that they call Real Life Tips, which is like 40 or 50 short, like 1 to 3 minute videos by different experts about how to something or other for parents, for providers, going to the dentist, or toilet training, or all kinds of things like that. So they've been very involved. And Adrian, the gal at Children's Specialized, when she made the business-to-business video, which is called Make Friends with Autism, asked me, because she knew that I was a musician, would I write a song to, I don't know why she thought that was a good idea, but she did. So Meg and I developed this program in 2008, and in 2009 we started traveling around the country a little bit. We were getting interest from other public libraries. So we were working with the State Library of Virginia doing a series of customer service, autism-related workshops down there, and I was writing this song as we were driving around in the van all around the state of Virginia. So maybe that's enough.
Well, I forgot to say, you all have the lyrics, but I guess this is not a sing-along.
I don't think it's really a sing-along necessarily. You can feel free to sing along. Oh, before you do. So then I'll just say that my wife, who is a filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, she's the one that's responsible for the wonderful customer service training video that went along with our project. She's also done all these videos for Children's Specialized, and she then had this brainstorm that we should make a video of this song I wrote. So that is actually what Suzanne's about to play.
They
So that's about all I have to say. I just wanted to, as I was thinking about what I was going to, very brief remarks here, it just struck me to keep in mind that just very small effort can really yield such a big result. The little bit of $10,000 that we got back in 2007, 2008, we never really dreamed that it would evolve to such a state. And I think all of the little efforts, that have continued and sprung up around the country have broadened the conversation about autism. And I think, as Marty was saying, and Ann too, help broaden that conversation for all other disabilities and all other, for all of us who are all differently abled in different kinds of ways. So it's been very encouraging to me. I'll say that we started this project in like 2007 and 2008. My son was born, and it wasn't until about 2009 or so that we realized that he had cerebral palsy and is in a wheelchair. Wonderful boy, he's now 7 years old. So I have been drawn inadvertently into the world of disability in a different kind of way too. And I hear what Ann was talking about access, about accessibility and universal design and all of that. So, So, small efforts that we're all making. It's so encouraging to see all of you. I know you all have your own projects, your own thoughts, your own initiatives that you're pushing forward. That's just fantastic. And so, last year, I became aware of Barbara Klipper. I was aware of her before that through our Libraries and Autism project as somebody who was active in the autism education library world, where libraries and the topic of autism seems to be colliding a little bit. And as the author of at that time, one wonderful book about programming for kids in libraries, kids on the spectrum in libraries. And so after the great experience that we had here last year, about a week or some odd after we got home, she called me and said, "So I'm thinking we should do a grant." And I'll let her talk more about it, but she asked if Libraries and Autism, as if that's some large corporation, would be interested in sort of sponsoring, brokering, helping to deal with the grant. And I said, absolutely. So I will turn it over to Barbara, and she can talk more about the Autism Welcome Here grant, which is now completed our first year. So Barbara Klipper.
Hi, everybody. I certainly can follow that when we talk about being differently abled. I am musically challenged. I'm in awe of you, Dan. A little bit of art talent, though. No, but really, I'm not going to go into a lot of background about the grant because I want to make sure we have plenty of time to hear our winners. But just basically, there is a full description of sort of the backstory on the Targeting Autism website, so you can kind of read it there. I wrote a blog entry for Suzanne. But basically, I've been thinking about doing something where I could put my own kind of charitable spending in a more personalized kind of way. And just hearing everybody's stories last year about the things that they wanted to do, but the barriers that librarians faced in terms of staff and money and support to get things done. My thought was that a grant, even though we couldn't fund a lot of projects, would still help be an incentive to lower that barrier. Would get people thinking about what kinds of projects they could do, even if they just applied and didn't win. that getting institutional support would get libraries to start thinking about doing these kinds of things, and we might be able to get some momentum going, that when there's a money opportunity, people perk up and administrations perk up. So actually what we do is put together a committee, and the committee is here today. So I'm just gonna, if I call your name, can you just wave or jump up and down or stand? I just want everybody to acknowledge the people on the committee, and they are Dan, and Suzanne, and Deborah Vines, and Renee Grassi, and Adrian Nassim, and Lucy is sort of our honorary member. And so we created a grant instrument. You know, I've had some experience with grants, some of the rest of us have. We put together the questionnaire and our evaluation criteria, and we sort of launched this thing out in the world, and we called it Autism Welcome Here, Libraries, Program Services, and More. And we opened applications up in September, and we were accepting them September to December, and we had no idea what to expect. And as of about 3-4 days before the close, we had maybe 8 applications. So we thought, well, okay, not so terrible for the first year. It's not going to be so little disappointing, but oh well. And then I've also learned that most people are procrastinators, because the last 2 days, another 49 applications came in. And we ended up with 57 applications from 22 states, which was amazing. We have a map, also thanks to Suzanne, of the distribution. So you see there are some clusters, particularly in New York, New Jersey, and Illinois, which makes sense because we have wonderful representation from those states. But we got applications from so many other parts around the country, which tells us the word did get out. And probably a little under half of those were for children's storytime programming of some variation, often paired with other programs, but we also did get applications from academic libraries. We got other kinds of initiatives, some very innovative, some things that were already being done in other places. We had our work cut out for us, and we had a process we went through that I won't bore you with, of narrowing down the path, and we all gave a lot of respect and attention to all of these submissions, and it was very clear there were many impassioned people around this country wanting to do this work and wanting to serve these people, and some of them are already doing things they wanted to expand. I mean, your heart would break. I came close to tears a number of times reading these applications. And so what happened is we narrowed it down, and we ended up giving 2 grants. The total pool is $5,000, and we split it among 2 libraries, and we have representatives here today from those libraries who will introduce their projects to you in just a minute. And one of them is Simsbury Public Library in Connecticut, which is doing a project called Everybody Plays for the really little guys. And the other is, and I'm gonna have to look because the name is really long. I apologize to remember the name of your library, but it's the Tarrant County College Southeast Campus Judith J. Carrier Library. And it's, sorry, it's a mouthful. But they're an academic library at a community college, and they already do lots of wonderful things for people on the spectrum, and they are going to be doing a project for the adult supporters of the students, and they'll tell you about that. So actually, if both of you can come up, we're going to put you maybe in the chairs, but we want to do a little presentation before you speak. So we have Daniel Flores here from Tarrant Community College, and we have April Jones here from Simsbury Public Library. This one doesn't come out. We'll just turn it around. So we have certificates for both of you. We'll give you your certificates first, which is the pretty part. And then we'll give you your checks, which is the important part. And then I also wanted both of you to have a copy of my second book, because we deal with teens and social networking. So congratulations. And now let's hear from you from the sideboards. Joe, what did after? Yeah.
I'm so grateful to Dan and Barbara and the other members of the Autism Welcome Here Grant Committee. Thank you. For their diligent work in reviewing all of the proposals that were submitted in this wonderful, wonderful first year, and for seeing fit to choose both of our projects as the grant recipients. And I'm very, very honored to have the opportunity to share a little bit about the project with all of you today. I'm going to be talking a little bit about myself and my library and how we came to apply for the Autism Welcome Here grant and how we went about putting our proposal together. And most importantly, our plans, hopes, and dreams for what the year ahead holds for us as we put that proposal into action. So I know, like many of you, I'm passionate about creating a welcoming environment for patrons affected by autism, largely because of my personal connections with folks on the spectrum. And one story that I think illustrates the need for the kind of work that all of us are doing was told to me recently by a colleague whose son, who's now in middle school and has high-functioning autism. When he was 3, being a librarian, she was all excited to be able to sign him up for story time, and excited to connect with the other parents and children and about the early literacy skills that he would gain. So she signed him up for story time at the local public library, and they went once. And the day before the second session, she said with enthusiasm, "Guess what? Tomorrow we're going to go to story time." And he said, "No." And this was not unusual, so she let it go, but each time she broached the subject again, she got the same response, only with increasing vehemence. Finally, she took a different tack, asking, "Why don't you want to go to story time?" This was not a child who was prone to explaining his reasoning, so she was surprised when immediately he said, "It's too noisy." When she thought about it, she could see he was right. The sounds of the librarian's voice straining to read over 10 active 3-year-olds, the active 3-year-olds themselves, their younger crying siblings, the recorded music, all in a small enclosed space, and beyond that, the actual noise. There were bright lights, quick transitions, and lots of movement. They didn't go back to story time the next morning, and looking back, she thinks of it as her son's first act of self-advocacy. I'm a member of the children's room staff at the Simsbury Public Library in Simsbury, Connecticut. Simsbury is a town of about 23,000 people, a suburb of Hartford, the state capital, and about 20 miles south of the Massachusetts border. It lies in the Farmington River Valley, and there's a lot of towns that kind of run in together, and we're all part of a consortium in the state, and so we draw a lot of patrons and visitors, not only from Simsbury, but from lots of other neighboring towns as well. We're very, very fortunate to have a beautiful library, the children's room, which expanded, we renovated about 8 years ago or so, and the children's room doubled in size, and it's bright and welcoming and interactive, and we have a wonderful, wonderful collection of books and music and DVDs. And we program almost every day some sort of children's programming. And many of our programs, while they're wonderful for many neurotypical children, would be completely daunting and overwhelming for children with ASD, not to mention their parents and their caregivers who might come with them. Yet we all know and appreciate the importance of early intervention. It's vital for young children with autism to have an opportunity to interact with their peers and practice their social skills. Families have to have access to quality literature and resources that can help them meet the needs of their children. Too often, families with children on the spectrum become isolated, worried about the lack of understanding or the judgment they might face if their child should display atypical behaviors in a public setting like a library. I think that's why it's so wonderful that conferences like this one and initiatives like the Autism Welcome Here grant are encouraging librarians to think about how to include and welcome patrons on the spectrum. At Simsbury Public Library, the first thing we did when we decided to apply for this grant was go on Facebook. No, really. We have a very active community Facebook group that knows everything there is to know about anything that goes on in town, including traffic accidents or very many things. So we posted about our desire to make the library friendlier toward the autism community and asked for their ideas about how to do that. Immediately, we found ourselves connected with other parenting groups and with local service providers and with educators. And what everyone said first was, thank you. And then they sent us all sorts of great ideas, like providing weighted vests and fidgets at story time, adding more materials about kids with ASD to our collection, and training staff to offer special needs friendly programming. We invited everybody who responded in that forum to meet with us at the library, and it was at that meeting that the idea for an inclusive playgroup was born. It envisioned a setting where neurotypical kids could interact with kids on the spectrum and understand that different isn't something to be avoided, but rather something to be embraced and enjoyed. A setting where parents could relax, knowing their child's needs and challenges, and also their gifts would be understood, not judged. A setting where families could make connections, share resources, and engage with service providers, and children could practice their social skills in a safe and supportive environment. Oh, and cool toys. We definitely envisioned a lot of cool toys. It also became clear that creating a library that felt welcoming to the autism community meant educating the whole staff, not just the children's staff, not just the adult staff, not just reference, not just circulation, but everybody about autism spectrum disorder and how best to serve patrons with autism. More than anything else, it's the staff that creates the library environment, and an interaction with a staff member can create a library lover, or it can create someone who's unwilling to return to the library. From that idea stage, we set out to learn what we could about local resources we could draw on and how we could build our group on best practices, to flesh out the details of the proposal and to seek the approval of library administration, our Friends of the Library organization, and the Town Board of Selectmen. Without exception, our experience of reaching out to potential partners was positive. I've already mentioned the collective wisdom of social media. One of the most fruitful connections created there was with the chair of Simsbury's special education PTO, which is called SEPTO, who also turned out to be an autism advocate and trainer, and also turned out to be the mom of one of our high school interns who comes in from the special ed program at the high school and helps us out in the library. She connected us with a service provider agency called Creative Interventions, and they agreed to work with us in planning and facilitating the playgroup. Of course, you already know that library colleagues are the best, and the staff at another Connecticut library that offers a special needs playgroup invited us to visit and shared invaluable experience and advice. All this collaboration and research came together in our final proposal, Everybody Plays, which incorporates the two components I already mentioned, staff training and the inclusive playgroup. So staff training will be offered to the entire library staff in order to achieve the maximum effect in terms of the atmosphere and attitude in the library. We want to give staff members the knowledge and tools they need to provide caring and effective service to patrons with ASD and their families. We plan to offer a training session during the day and one in the evening to accommodate staff schedules and allow us to also keep the library open while we're training everybody. And the training will be led by the woman I mentioned, the chair of the special needs PTO and the autism specialist for the school district. Now, as much as everybody loves a good training session, I really think the playgroup aspect of the proposal is the really fun part. Everybody Plays will be a bi-monthly playgroup open to all families with children birth to 5, but intentionally well suited for and welcoming to families with young children on the spectrum. This inclusivity, we hope, will help build understanding and acceptance and will also provide an opportunity for children with ASD to observe the play and social interaction of neurotypical peers. It will be developed with the assistance of service providers and educators with the goal of structuring it so as to make it a place where all participants can succeed. Of course, we want to think very carefully about the physical environment in which the group takes place. We plan to hold it in one of our large meeting rooms that's separate from the children's room and the general chaos and hubbub that's often going on there. This is a room that features adjustable lighting, and it's large enough so that we hope to be able to set up distinct spaces for different types of activities. We envision fine and gross motor activity areas, a sensory play area, materials to provide needed sensory input, and some comfy spots to crash and reset if need be. Staff from Creative Interventions will be on hand to facilitate the playgroup at least until we on the library staff feel confident and well prepared to do that, and to serve as resources for parents and caregivers. In fact, connecting families with the resources they need is a primary goal of the project. We hope that a positive experience at Everybody Plays will lead families to feel more comfortable using the library for other purposes and taking advantages of all the resources that we have to offer. We hope both children and adults will form connections and friendships, and families will feel less alone and less isolated. We also hope birth to 3 service providers will come to see Everybody Plays as a good place to provide early intervention services and to help children prepare for a school experience later on. We're so incredibly excited about the opportunities that the Autism Welcome Here grant is bringing to Simsbury Public Library and to our families, and we can't wait to get things rolling and to share with our other libraries in the area and with all of you what we learn along the way. So thank you so much for your attention, for the work that you all are doing, and thanks again to the grant committee and for Targeting Autism for allowing me to be here today. Thank you.
I want to give thanks to the committee, Dan Weiss and Barbara, for selecting Tarrant County College for this particular grant. I want to say that Joe Tissa-Clem, the director of the library, would have been here. However, she knew that I had a very special place in my heart for this particular population. I want to say something. I've only been a librarian for a few years, maybe 5 years, but 20 years of work as a pastor. I've worked with families who have struggled to find answers when their children have been diagnosed, and some who families have refused and denied the diagnosis because they just didn't want to face up and find the resources. And this is a familiar story, I know. But my first exposure to such a family came in Connecticut, actually. I was living in New Haven, and I was in a church that was built by Portuguese fishermen. It was almost as tall as this room. Beautiful wooden structure on the Quinnipiac River, so on a Sunday morning, you can watch the lobster fishermen come in and out on the river. Beautiful setting. But it was quite empty. The neighborhood had tipped, as they say, and was now a mixture of folks from just about every place, and had not had a pastor for several years. People were somewhat afraid to go there. Quiet little place, 15 people when I went there. And one Sunday morning, a professor from Yale came in with her daughter. The daughter was about 17, 18 years old, and I remember that she practically carried her in. She had straps all around her, and her arms were flailing different ways. Beautiful young lady, joyful, and she brought her in and she sat in the back pew. And the back pew in a church that size is quite a distance from the pulpit where I usually stood and spoke. And afterwards she came and she said, "I hope you don't mind my daughter and all the noises that she makes. You see, she's autistic, and she loves to go to church, but everywhere we go they ask us to leave because, well, she just makes too much noise and they consider it disruptive. Well, of course, I welcomed her and said, you can come here anytime and you can also sit a lot closer. And she did. She became part of that congregation. And as I moved a little bit further south to my home state of Texas, I found that other congregations were facing some of the same questions. And I, without exception, every place that I went had the same question. What do we do? And I felt very frustrated because I was supposed to be the person with all the answers. And, well, I didn't have that answer, and I tried very hard to deliver some type of consolation and to look for resources, and we just never could find everything that we needed. And I had, at the last appointment, I had a mother with 2 sons, one who was very, very high functioning, extremely bright, the youngest, and the other also very bright, but not as social, and quite different, but they were brothers, Richard and Isai. And Richard would sit and give no eye contact. He would come to the church and he'd sit in the 3rd pew, just about where Dan is, actually, right about there. And he would just sit there and just look around and not really connect with what was going on when I first came there. And Isai would be running around and doing things, and the mother would always be crying, Isai! And I liked, I mean, I always knew that that family was around if I could hear that someplace on the church ground. He was always into something, you know, he was so bright, and Isai loved to talk to me about science and, you know, the planets and why Pluto should or should not be a planet, and all sorts of things that were way beyond me. But such a delightful young man. And another difference between the two is Ricardo began to go, they found some resources, Autism Helps ministry that was there in town, worked with Birdville School District. And he began to take music lessons, and soon he was playing the piano, and not for anyone else, but for his parents. He could sit and he could play without missing a note. Always perfect. He could remember every single note and every rhythm. And so he began from that to become more social and began to give eye contact and to shake my hand, and when he was younger, he would start to give me a little hug, a little side hug, and I said, that was great. Now, Isai would still run around, but Isai would also get in trouble, so I would get calls that Isai was being thrown out of another school, and he must have been thrown out of 7 schools in the 7 years that I knew them. And he didn't seem to be getting any better. And we would come in and he'd have a meltdown and just begin to scream because he was terrified of 2 things, spiders and puppets. And every summer we'd have a youth program and the puppets would come out and he'd go screaming because he just couldn't understand how that puppet could be alive. And it would just terrify him. And so when he'd go through a meltdown, I'd put my arms around him and he would just go completely limp. It would all just go away. And then he'd sort of wake up out of that and give me a big hug and say thank you. And we developed a relationship there, Isai and I. And Ricardo, by the way, just graduated high school. He went all the way through, and he's now thinking about college, which is what I'm going to talk to you about. Tarrant County College, I've made the transition, by the way, now I'm a librarian. In Tarrant County College, I wish I had known about them. They're the best kept secret in North Texas. You know, for 20 years, they've been reaching out to students, just like Ricardo, who are having difficulty in their socialization skills. They are interested in getting some education, but don't even know how to ask for it. Well, for 20 years, Tarrant County College has been providing this. I don't know why I never heard about it. The best kept secret. This new project, funded by this grant, the seed money, is going to go a long way. Let me tell you what it's going to do. The Autism Spectrum College Information Talks Project, or the ASKIT for short, is going to provide something that we have never provided before at our college. We have 100,000 students. That's accredited and uncredited. 100,000, 5 campuses. and then satellite campuses all throughout Tarrant County. We're going to do something with this money at my campus, Southeast Campus. And with this pilot project, we're going to fill in the gap. In the first 20 years, we've been working with students who are considered on the severe end where they have almost no socialization skills. So we're going to start working on the other side now. And we're going to begin to work with the parents and see the parents will have now what I was hoping for 20 years, what I've been looking for. We're finally going to be able to provide this. I wish it had been my idea, but I'm here to talk to you about it. So the Ask It project is going to complement everything else we're doing. The First Choice program is the other program. And we're going to provide a series of talks, 7 informational talks geared towards the parents of these students in this program. And so to give you just a highlight of it, dating, FERPA, depression, and entering the workforce. And there are several subdivisions on entering the workforce. Like how to dress, how to interview, how to just be themselves and be accepted. See, this is something that we've dreamed of for a long time. And I'm so grateful for the committee. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. And this seed money will definitely go a long way with us. When this pilot project kicks off in September, we're going to be blogging about it, and we're going to do quite a bit of news on it. Please send me an email if you're interested. Daniel.flores@tccd.edu. I'm the only Daniel Flores at Tarrant County College. So you can find me there in the library, and I'll send you all the information about this if you really want to see this in action. We're excited because we're going to take this a year from now. We're going to take this to the other campuses as well. And hopefully this will be part of a larger movement. Thank you very much. God bless. I appreciate it.